There is a man in every high-stakes room. You may not notice him immediately. He is not the one performing, not the one filling every silence with his own voice, not the one who needs you to know how much he knows. He is the one watching. And the longer you are in the room with him, the more you feel it. A kind of gravity. An unspoken authority that does not announce itself and does not need to. When he finally speaks, it is not louder than anyone else. But the room stops. Not because of what he said, because of what he withheld until that moment. This is not charisma. This is not natural dominance. This is a doctrine. It has 4 pillars. It was built, not inherited. And it was first codified in a farmhouse outside Florence in the winter of 1513 by a disgraced diplomat who had survived torture, exile, and the complete collapse of everything he had built. His name was Niccolo Machiavelli. And what he understood about power, about how the men who last actually operate, was so accurate, so structurally precise, that every institution that has ever wanted to manage people has tried to suppress it. 4 pillars. Act calm. Think smart. Move in silence. Strike hard. In this video, we take each one apart completely. We show you exactly what each pillar means, how it operates in practice, and why the man who lives by all 4 is in a fundamentally different category than the man who only understands one. This is a field manual. Before we begin, if this is your first time on the Dark Lens, subscribe now and hit the notification bell. Every week we go into the exact territory most channels are afraid to enter: the architecture of power, dark psychology, and the philosophy of the sovereign mind. No softening, no ideology. Just the mechanism, named precisely. You are in the right place. Let's go. Pay close attention. Act calm. The psychology of the unreadable man. The first and most foundational misunderstanding about Machiavellian calm is this. People think it is suppression. It is not. Suppression is what a man does when he is feeling something and hiding it. Suppression takes enormous energy. It is detectable by any experienced observer. The tightness in the jaw, the microtension in the neck, the slight shift in breathing. Suppression is a performance. And performances fail. Machiavellian calm is something structurally different. It is the condition of a man who has reclassified provocation, who no longer experiences an insult as an attack on his identity, because his identity is not located where the insult is aimed, who no longer experiences aggression as a threat to his status, because his status does not depend on winning this particular exchange, who no longer experiences challenge as something that requires immediate defense, because he is not in the business of defending. He is in the business of observing. Every reaction you display is intelligence surrendered. When you react with anger, they know what threatens you. When you react with anxiety, they know where the insecurity lives. When you react with excitement, they know what you want badly enough to lose discipline for. The composed man hands them nothing. He receives their intelligence while surrendering none of his own. The interaction is structurally asymmetric from the first moment. The 3 depths of calm. Machiavellian calm is not one thing. It operates at 3 distinct depths. Most men access only the first. The doctrine requires all 3. The first depth is surface control. The disciplined face, the measured voice, the absence of visible agitation. This is useful, but it is the weakest level. An experienced opponent can read through surface control. The suppression behind it creates a particular contained quality that sophisticated observers detect. The second depth is strategic reframing. This is where provocation is reclassified in real time. The aggressive figure is not an aggressor. They are a source of information. Their behavior tells you what they want, what they fear, what their next move will be if you respond in way A versus way B. Conflict becomes diagnostic. Every attempt to destabilize you becomes data about the person attempting it. The third depth is structural architecture. This is the rarest and most powerful level. The man who has built structural calm does not manage his reactions in the moment, because the work has been done in advance. He genuinely does not need the approval that most men spend enormous energy pursuing. He has genuinely reconciled with the losses that most men cannot think about without flinching. He genuinely experiences challenge as interesting rather than threatening. This third level is not a technique. It is the result of building a life with real foundations. Practical application. The 5 environments. Here is where it meets the real world. In negotiation, the man who shows no reaction to a number holds the anchor. A visible wince, a hesitation, a shift in posture, each communicates exactly how far the other party needs to push. The man who receives every number with the same steady expression gives the other side nothing to calibrate against. They are negotiating in the dark. He is not. In confrontation, calm in the face of aggression creates an immediate power inversion. The aggressive party has exposed their interior. They are at maximum information cost and minimum strategic gain. The calm party has paid nothing. The psychological leverage is not with the louder person. It is with the quieter one. In social hierarchies, the man who does not react to exclusion, to status games, to tribal approval mechanisms, that man cannot be controlled by those mechanisms. He is ungovernable by the standard tools, which means he operates in a fundamentally different strategic position from every man who can be managed through social approval and disapproval. In high-pressure decisions, the man under genuine deadline or resource pressure who can maintain the quality of his thinking that he has in calm conditions is a different decision-maker from the man whose thinking degrades under pressure. Every major outcome in your life will be decided under some form of pressure. The quality of your calm is the quality of your decisions. There is no separation. In intimate relationships, the man who can be emotionally destabilized by a partner's mood shifts, by withdrawal, by the testing that is the natural language of any close relationship. That man is at the mercy of those shifts. His behavior is reactive. He can be managed by temperature. The man with structural calm is not cold. He is present, warm, genuinely engaged. He simply cannot be controlled by the emotional weather of another person because his own foundation does not depend on it. 2. Think smart. The strategic architecture of the Machiavellian mind. If acting calm is the exterior, thinking smart is the engine. And thinking smart in the Machiavellian sense is not what most people mean when they use the phrase. It is not IQ, not education, not the speed at which you process information. It is the specific capacity to see things as they are rather than as you wish they were. Machiavelli opened The Prince with a line that has been misread for 500 years. The gap between how one lives and how one should live is so great that the man who abandons what is done for what ought to be done learns his ruin sooner than his preservation. This is not cynicism. It is epistemology. The man who operates from an accurate model of reality has a decisive advantage over the man who operates from the model he was given or the one he prefers. Not in some abstract philosophical sense. In every specific decision in every specific room. Strategic thinking habit 1. Judge by consequences, not intentions. The ordinary mind evaluates actions by their stated intentions. The strategic mind evaluates them exclusively by their consequences. Intentions are completely inside the control of the person declaring them. They can be constructed, curated, and modified at will. A man can have impeccable stated intentions and produce catastrophic results. A man can have cold, calculated motivations and produce outcomes that serve everyone involved. The consequences exist in the shared world. They cannot be manufactured after the fact. They are the only data that is not subject to the distortions of self-presentation. The strategic thinker asks, what did this action actually produce? Who actually benefited? What was the structural effect on the power dynamics in this environment? These questions cut through stated intentions immediately. Strategic thinking habit 2. Map the room before you enter it. Machiavelli never entered a politically significant space unprepared. Every diplomatic audience, every council meeting, every private encounter with a figure of consequence, he had done the structural analysis in advance. Who is present? What each person wants? What each person fears? Who is allied with whom? And what the conditions of that alliance are? Where the friction points are? What outcomes are possible? And which path produces the outcome he needs with minimum exposure of his own position? In the modern application, before any significant interaction, run the structural pre-analysis. Who holds the most influence in this room? What is their primary motivation today? Not in general, today. What would a good outcome look like for each person present? Where are the competing interests? What is the one thing I need from this interaction? and what is the minimum I need to reveal to get it. The man who maps the room before entering is already 3 moves ahead of everyone inside it who is improvising. Strategic thinking habit 3. Separate signal from noise. Every environment produces enormous amounts of information. Most of it is irrelevant to the actual question. The strategic mind develops a ruthless filter. What information actually changes the outcome I am trying to produce? Everything that does not change the outcome is noise. Process it briefly. Do not spend resources on it. Most people cannot do this because they have never established with precision what outcome they are actually trying to produce. Without a precise objective, every piece of information looks potentially relevant. You drown in data because you have no filter. The Machiavellian practitioner starts with ruthless objective clarity, then constructs a filter from that clarity, then processes only the information that passes through the filter. Strategic thinking habit 4. Scenario map. Never single predict. Machiavelli never predicted what would happen. He mapped what might happen and prepared a specific, pre-decided response for each scenario. The single predictor is constantly wrong and has no plan for being wrong. His world regularly collapses because the one path he had mapped did not materialize. He then has to rebuild his entire strategic position from scratch, under the worst possible conditions, with the least possible time. The scenario mapper has a specific, pre-decided response to each of the 3 most likely versions of events. When the world moves, he moves simultaneously.
Zero luck.
Zero improvisation at the critical moment. The intelligence audit. Practical application. Take the 3 most consequential domains of your current life. For each one, answer these 4 questions. What am I assuming about this domain that I have not verified? What information, if it turned out to be different from what I believe, would completely change my approach? Who in this domain has stated motivations that do not match their demonstrated behavior? What are the 2 most likely ways this could go wrong? And what is my specific response to each? The man who can answer those questions clearly is thinking smart. The man who cannot is operating on assumption. And assumptions, as Machiavelli documented in case study after case study, are the most common and the most catastrophic cause of strategic collapse. 3. Move in silence. Why the loudest men lose. Machiavelli wrote a line that passes most readers without registering its full strategic weight. He wrote, "Men judge by appearances, because the sight is open to everyone, but the touch is open to few." The surface of this observation is about perception. The depth is about information warfare. What people can see, they can respond to. What they cannot see, they cannot counter. What they do not know is coming, they cannot prepare for. Silence in the Machiavellian framework is not modesty. It is not insecurity. It is not the absence of something. It is a weapon. And it is a weapon that most men disarm voluntarily, every single day, without realizing they're doing it. What announcement actually costs? Most men announce their plans because they want the validation that the announcement produces. They want confirmation that the plan is good, that the mission is worthy, that they are admirable for pursuing it. This validation need is one of the most expensive habits in the strategic vocabulary, because every announcement of an incomplete plan produces 4 specific costs. 1. You have given competitors, and in every environment you inhabit, there are competitors, whether declared or not, the information they need to move against you, around you, or before you. 2. You have triggered the psychology of completion in your own neural system. Goal announcement research is consistent and clear. Telling people about your goals produces a premature reward response. Your brain, which cannot cleanly distinguish between announcing an intention and completing it, gives you a partial reward for the announcement. A brain that has already been partially rewarded for an action is less driven to complete that action. The announcement literally reduces your own probability of follow-through. 3. You have exposed your timeline. Anyone who knows what you are doing and roughly when you plan to do it can time their countermove precisely. You have handed them the scheduling advantage. 4. You have invited opinion. And opinion, even well-intentioned opinion, in the early stages of a serious undertaking, is friction. It introduces doubt at exactly the moment when certainty of execution is what is required. Ideas in their infant stages are fragile. Exposure kills the fragile ones before they become formidable. the silence of the unreadable interior. There is a second dimension of Machiavellian silence more powerful than protecting your plans. It is the silence of a man who has made himself impossible to map. Most men narrate themselves continuously. They explain their decisions. They justify their choices. They share their frameworks. They tell you how they feel about things. They fill every silence with updates on their own internal state. In doing this, they provide a continuously updated intelligence briefing on exactly who they are, what they want, what bothers them, and what they are likely to do next. The Machiavellian practitioner does not narrate himself. He acts. He observes. He listens far more than he speaks. When he speaks, the words are selected with the same precision a surgeon uses selecting instruments. He asks questions more than he answers them. He allows the people around him to become the open books while he remains the closed one. This produces a specific and powerful dynamic. The known person is manageable. The unknown person generates both caution and fascination simultaneously. He cannot be easily categorized, which means the standard social management tools do not apply to him. He operates outside the reach of those mechanisms. Operational silence, moving before they register the move. Machiavelli's case study of Cesare Borgia is the most complete illustration of operational silence in his writing. Borgia's conquests were consistently total surprises, not because of supernatural secrecy, but because he was executing while his opponents were still discussing whether to take him seriously. The gap between their awareness and his action was his primary weapon. By the time they decided he was a genuine threat and began to prepare a response, the move was already complete. The position was already taken. The response they were preparing was a response to a situation that no longer existed. Practical application. The most consequential moves you will make in any domain should be designed so that they are substantially complete, ideally irreversible, before they become visible. The strategic transition is executed before it is announced. The alliance is formed before either party makes a public declaration. The position is occupied before competitors identify it as desirable. The departure is prepared and committed to before it is declared. Let the completion be the announcement. The social cost of silence and why it is worth it. One final dimension. And this is the one most men cannot accept. We operate in an environment specifically architected to extract disclosure. Social media, professional networking culture, the constant performance of productivity and ambition. All of it is designed to make you broadcast your plans, your intentions, your internal state. Every broadcast is intelligence surrendered. Every announced intention is a map of your next move. Every shared insecurity is an inventory of available leverage. The Machiavellian practitioner accepts the social cost of silence. He accepts that the men broadcasting their plans will appear more active, more engaged, more relevant. He accepts that his silence will sometimes be misread as inactivity. He accepts all of this because he understands something the noisy players do not. The announcement of action is not action. The appearance of movement is not movement. And when he arrives, quietly, completely, without warning, he will be already there. 4. Strike hard. The doctrine of decisive action. The first 3 pillars are about interiority. They are the architecture of the inside. The 4th pillar is where the inside meets the world. And this is where most men who have studied Machiavelli fail to complete the picture. They learn the calm. They develop the strategic thinking. They master the silence. And then when the moment arrives, they deliberate past it. Machiavelli wrote, "One must be a fox to recognize traps, and a lion to frighten wolves." Those who simply play the fox do not understand this. The fox without the lion is a strategist who never acts. He can see every trap. He can map every danger. He can theorize every possible approach. And then, because there is always one more trap to identify, one more risk to assess, one more condition to wait for, he does nothing. What striking hard actually is. Striking hard does not mean aggression. It does not mean recklessness. It does not mean acting without the intelligence that the first 3 pillars provide. It means 3 specific things. First, when you commit completely. Machiavelli's most consistent documentation of failed princes is their habit of half-action. They moved but did not conquer. They confronted but did not resolve. They made moves large enough to create enemies but not decisive enough to establish control. Half measures are the most expensive option in every equation. A half-executed move carries the full cost of action without the full benefit. It creates an adversary who is motivated enough to respond but not neutralized enough to be unable to. Second, timing is the weapon. The same decisive action that produces complete strategic victory at the right moment produces complete strategic failure at the wrong one. Machiavelli documented this with extraordinary precision. He watched brilliant men fail not because their strategy was wrong but because they moved too early, before the environment was ready to receive the move, or too late, after the window had already closed. Reading timing is a skill. It is built by deep study of the specific rhythms of the environment you are operating in. Every domain has patterns. Market cycle. Organizations have political seasons. Relationships have thresholds. Conversations have moments. The Machiavellian practitioner studies the rhythm of his domain until he can feel where the window is before it opens. He positions himself in advance. He is already in motion when the moment arrives, not beginning to assess whether to move. Third, never leave an addressed problem in a state where it can regenerate. Machiavelli's clearest line on this: men should be either well treated or crushed, because they can avenge themselves of lighter injuries, of more serious ones they cannot. The partially addressed problem is the most dangerous outcome. The challenge that has been confronted but not resolved. The boundary that has been pushed but not enforced. The competitor who has been checked but not neutralized. Each of these creates an adversary with maximum motivation and sufficient remaining capacity. They will recover. They will wait for a moment of their choosing. And they will remember. When you act, complete the action. Whatever the cost of completion is, it is less than the cost of what recovers. The courage architecture. Machiavelli closed The Prince with his most famous line: "It is better to be bold than cautious, because fortune is a woman, and if you wish to keep her down, you must beat and batter her." Set aside the metaphor. Hold the principle. Fortune, circumstance, timing, the conditions of the world, rewards boldness structurally. Not occasionally. Not randomly. Structurally. Because boldness closes the gap between preparation and execution at the moment when that gap is most expensive. Because bold action, when it is prepared bold rather than reckless bold, preempts your opponent's ability to prepare a response. Because the world is full of strategic men who have done the thinking and never acted on it, and one man who has done the thinking and acts decisively removes the advantage of everyone who only thought. The courage architecture Machiavelli describes is not bravado. It is this: prepare with full rigor. Decide with maximum intelligence. And then, when the preparation is complete and the window is identified, act with zero hesitation. Not managed hesitation. Not reduced hesitation. Zero. Because hesitation after preparation is not caution. It is fear operating in disguise. And fear at the moment of action contaminates the action itself, introduces the reactive energy that the first three pillars were built to eliminate. Calm, smart, silent, then complete, total, no hesitation commitment. That is the strike, the integration. Now we assemble the complete picture. These four pillars are not independent practices you can deploy selectively. They are a single integrated system. And the system only operates at full power when all four are functioning simultaneously. Act calm without thinking smart, and you are composed but directionless. Your stillness is mistaken for passivity. Your composure has no strategy behind it. The room respects your bearing but does not know you are dangerous. Think smart without moving in silence, and you are a strategist who telegraphs. Your intelligence becomes a gift to every adversary who is paying attention. You have done the analytical work. You have surrendered the advantage it gave you. Move in silence without striking hard, and you are a ghost. You accumulate position. You prepare. You develop the intelligence advantage. And you hold it. Indefinitely. Without converting it into outcome. The silence becomes not strategy but avoidance wearing the costume of strategy. Strike hard without acting calm, and you are a force without precision. Your energy is real but your timing is poor. You move when you are triggered, not when the moment is right. Your opponents can predict you simply by watching what makes you react. You are powerful and controllable simultaneously. The fully integrated sovereign is the man where all four are operating. The emotional architecture of structural calm. The cognitive architecture of accurate, strategic, consequence-based thinking. The operational discipline to move without broadcasting. The decisive courage to act completely when the moment arrives. This man is not a personality type. He is a level of development. He was not born with this. He built it. Through the work that the third pillar protects from the world's commentary. Through the failures that the first pillar allows him to survive without collapse. Through the strategic thinking that the second pillar makes automatic over time. And through enough decisive actions, some of which failed, some of which succeeded, all of which taught him something, to know the difference between the hesitation that serves him and the hesitation that is fear operating in disguise. The close. Let me give you the essential. Every significant environment you will ever inhabit has a power architecture. That architecture operates whether you understand it or not. The men who ignore it are not neutral. They are managed by it. Machiavelli did not write The Prince to teach men to be cruel. He wrote it to teach men to see clearly. Because in his experience, watching every form of power the Italian world could produce succeed and collapse and succeed again, unclear men always lost to clear ones. Not because clear men were morally superior. Because they were operating from accurate information and the others were not. Act calm. Think smart. Move in silence. Strike hard. 4 pillars. 1 complete system. Built to operate inside the actual world as it is. The only question that remains is the one that ends every Dark Lens video. Which of these 4 pillars is the one you have been avoiding? Not the one you are weakest at. The one you have been avoiding. Because there is always one. And it is always the answer. And it is always the pillar that is currently costing you the most. If something in this video registered, if one of these 4 pillars described exactly what has been costing you in silence, 2 things. Subscribe to the Dark Lens. Every week, we go deeper into the exact architecture of power, dark psychology, and psychological sovereignty. No softening, no packaging. Just the mechanism named clearly. Subscribe now and hit the bell. Second, leave 1 word in the comments. The single word that identifies which pillar you are building right now. Not a paragraph. 1 word. I read every single one. And those words tell me exactly what to build next. The next video goes somewhere most channels will not follow you. I will see you inside it.